Well,
thanks for having me.
Disconnect. Yeah, we've here you for 2 minutes. That's it. That's all you get. Right, are we good, YouTube? One green light. This is live, but I can't see it. There we go. Right, YouTube. Yep, everything's working. Sound. Well, cool. Hello, everyone. Welcome to TC Live for the 6th of December. It feels weird saying that now. We're, of course, going to be discussing Star Trek Discovery Episode 8, The Sanctuary, today. I'm going to put my tweet at a minute. Share now. You guys can go retweet that if you so wish. I am going to do it because I will forget. And hopefully, there's a chat. I'm looking over here, wondering if a chat is. I moved the window over to this side, thinking I could see it better, and I've completely ignored it so far. Hello, everyone. How are we all doing? Starfleet Boy, love to see you as per usual. Need more Cronenberg. I couldn't agree with you more. That is a brilliant username. And hopefully, with episode 9 through the trailers, which we'll discuss towards the end of the stream, as I think we've all got our own theories. Looks like we're getting more Cronenberg as well. It looks like he's up to some weird stuff as per usual, so it's going to be even more interesting. Right, there's a quick retweet on that one. Right, let's get into this. So, I'm, of course, joined by my regular host this evening, Mr. Ketwolski. How you doing, Nick?
Very good, sir. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm loving the Christmas jumper again. You had it last week, and it's looking even better.
Yeah, and I will tell you, I did wash it between last weekend and this weekend, so I'm just throwing it out there. Fresh, and it's clean. It smells great.
It's crisp. And, of course, we're joined by Dom, who looks like he's lost in a nebula right now of how blue that is. I've only just noticed how blue that is.
I'm very cold here. I have to represent
the
good
frozen.
Andorian boys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of Andorian people, so I've subtly announced this recently. We're redoing our TC website at the minute, and we need some pictures for like each person on it. Can I use the Andorian picture?
No.
Ooh.
Well, for those that don't know, Dom's favorite cosplay is Andorian, and he has an amazing photo of himself and probably the best cosplay of Andorian you could possibly imagine. And he's super shy about it. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard great things.
Damian, you remember last year's DST? They had those Andorian antlers they were giving out, or antennae? He's got a picture of one of those on. I'm not allowed to release it to the internet of fear of being murdered, so unfortunately.
I picked up a couple of those last year. They're so cool, yeah.
There you go. And of course, I'm introducing our special guest this evening, Mr. the IrishTrekkie, aka Damian. How are you doing? It's great to have you on the show. How you doing?
I'm doing great, and thank you very much for having me. And I was thinking, looking at Dom there, I was thinking he was sponsored by Discovery Season 1 VFX because it was so blue there as well. But that's a good thing. But anyway, glad to be here to talk Trek with you. Fine people.
So Damian, for those who may not know what you do on your channel, could you give us a quick little intro and where people can find you and what you do basically?
Yeah, quick intro to me. I simply adore starships of all shapes and sizes. So you'll generally find me on YouTube talking and rambling on about the Star Trek official starships collections from Hero Collector, and there's Battlestar and all plethora of other genres in there as well. So I love talking ships, and when I'm not talking ships, I'm talking Star Trek on the Nerd Escape podcast with my cohorts, the Trek Collector Chris and Linda Hen in the Hat as well. So it's all about the community. Love doing it, and so super happy to be here to talk Trek with you guys as well. So again, just search for IrishTrekkie. You'll find me on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube primarily.
Fantastic, a pleasure to have you. And speaking about the Egomos stuff there and Hero Collector, cannot wait for their upcoming collections. I suppose you've heard they've got Stargate and The Expanse on the way as well. As a big fan of both those franchises, cannot wait. I've cleared desk space already, just waiting for when
I need
those
a
are actually
TARDIS.
made. Yeah.
Where can I put these ships?
I recently got out some of my models again, so I have the Discovery. The base model of Discovery is really big itself. Next to the Battlestar Pegasus and Galactica, those models are like so long. So there's one whole shelf taken up by that and an Infinity model. It's so big. But it is a great, they're really high quality, and we featured Hero Collector here on the channel before. Always a pleasure to check out their stuff, especially when it's Trek related as well. Of course, well, gentlemen, today we're going to be discussing Episode 8, The Sanctuary. An interesting episode for Star Trek Discovery. I'm pretty sure we'll have some thoughts over it. I'm going to go ahead and say it wasn't the most exciting episode all around, but it did give us some good bits of information, particularly relating back to the character of Philippa Giorgio and where her character's heading. And for those of us who like watching the news a little bit too closely, maybe hinting towards a Section 31 show, or at least the news of it soon, which hopefully the next episode will do a bit further, because we definitely need some more information on that, hopefully soon. I don't think we've heard anything in over a year and a half now on that show. Nick, you keep up to date with the news a bit more than I do lately, but Section 31, we've not heard anything about it for ages, have we? No mention of it officially.
The only time that they talk about it officially is just at the end of every sentence, where they talk about what's upcoming for Star Trek is, and also Section 31. It is still included on like when CBS releases those official pressers and stuff like that with the one sheets, and it has like kind of the talking points and information on there. It is still included in there along with the Pike Show and Prodigy and, you know, Lower Decks and Discovery and Picard. It's still on there. As far as we know, the show is still moving forward. But yeah, I don't know what the current plan is for it, but there hasn't been anything super, super official, no title announcement, no leaks that have been associated with it, no actual leaks that have been associated with it, nothing concrete other than I think a year and a half ago, they talked about how some of the writers were prepping for it. And then that kind of just went nowhere. So, but yeah, that's it. So not a lot, but it looks like we're gearing up for it. And it looks like, especially next week's episode, it looks like we're going to be getting into maybe how that show may be kind of setting up the backdoor pilot, as it were, for that show, potentially with the next episode. But we'll get to that, I guess, later. But yeah.
Of course, yeah. I mean, we can probably speculate a bit of that towards the end of the stream when we discuss the next episode, which is called Terra Firma Part 1, given that is written by two of the upcoming Section 31 show writers, Bo-yeon Kim, and is it Erika Lindapol? Is that how you pronounce her name, Dom?
Erica Lipholt.
There we go.
Erica, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how that pulls out. But first off, let's discuss The Sanctuary. An interesting episode. Damian, would you care to share your thoughts on this episode as our guest first? Take it away.
Yeah, listen, I enjoyed it. I wasn't at the edge of my seat, sucked into it. But, first initial thoughts, I'm super happy that Michael didn't go down the rabbit hole of, nicking a ship and heading off to Sanctuary and followed orders, because she's been doing that too much. I'm glad she's learned her lesson. But I was taken with the story. It was good. Some nice side splits, as we talked about, with Giorgio and seeing Tilly doing so much admin work and HR. It's a lot involved in it. But I was really taken aback by the visual style. I always love Frakes episodes, and the color tone and everything. It reminded me so much of Star Trek Generations. The hue and the way it was shot, like the sun coming in through the windows and stuff like that. But yeah, it was an enjoyable episode.
Totally agree. What you just said about the visuals of it, I think when Book and Burnham were down on the planet there, that visual of the planet's atmosphere or the surroundings and the visuals of that looked beautiful. I was looking at some of CBS's like screenshots they released or press photos this week. Those screenshots alone look beautiful in like 4K, etc. Honestly, some of the best like visuals I think we've seen. And like you say, Frakes always pulls it off. We look back at People of Earth, some of the graphics and like visuals from that, again, fantastic. And you can even go back to his season 1 and 2 episodes. Honestly, looks great. I'm going to jump to Dom next. Dom, your thoughts on episode 8?
So in terms of plot, I mean, overall, I really enjoyed the episode. I wasn't too thrilled with the story of this episode, but what really brought it back for me was all the character moments we got in it, especially with Adira and Stamets and Culver. And then especially the stuff with Burnham, like Damien said, her not going off, her following orders, but also seeing a more personal side to her, especially when she was interacting at the end with Book's nephew. And just, I really loved the character moments in this episode.
The character moments, I think we'll discuss particular things a little bit in detail a bit later on. But yeah, I totally agree with you there. And of course, Nick, we saved the best for last, maybe controversial. Your opinions? I know you put a tweet earlier about the episode, but tell us what you thought of the episode overall.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that tweet because not a lot of people enjoyed that tweet. But so what I'll say is, and I talked to you guys about this already, which is I saw the preview for this episode and I said to myself, this episode is going to suck. It's going to be a boring filler episode. There's going to be some drama on the planet with Michael. She's going to think of something, and it's going to be just another just kind of boring filler thing. And I was pleasantly surprised, and I will freely admit that I was very, very wrong with my initial assumption about it. And it was actually really great. I look at Scavengers, which for me right now is still the weakest episode of the season. And then I look at this, Sanctuary, and I say, Scavengers, how you don't do a filler episode, whereas Sanctuary is how you actually do one, where the needle of the burn plot moved ever so slightly. Good enough. We got a little bit of a tease there, mystery, but then they moved the needles of all of our individual plot threads of all of our characters wildly up, and it was really, really great. Very, very well done. All of them kind of got a lot of things to do. We had these great moments with Adira and Stamets. We had these great moments with Michael. I actually really enjoyed the story of Book and his brother, even though it was kind of obvious that he was going to kind of flip the script at the end there, but I did enjoy that. I liked exploring more of that, culture that was down there on the planet. I loved Osira. I thought she was a great mustache twirling villain. And I know we talked a lot about this in Picard, where they killed off Bjayzl, and I hated that because I was like, she was just this raw villain that would have been great to kind of pop in every once in a while to kind of just be a thorn in the side. And I'm super glad they didn't do that with Osira. She can always pop back in. She's not the big bad. She's not the Borg. She's not Romulan. She's just this thorn in the side that's causing some trouble. And I like the fact that she's kind of around to do that. So I really enjoyed that. And Damian, you're right to talk about the visuals. All of those shots of, oh my God, Emily Kutz's character. Why am I forgetting her name? Detmer. Thank you. Oh my God. So all of the shots of Detmer and Andorian guy with no antennas. And like we were seeing them in the cockpit there, through the window, and the ship kind of moving in and around and firing. And it was fast paced editing, but it wasn't like crazy editing to the where I was getting like, a headache. It was just good enough. The action was really, really well done there. I thought that was really great. And what a fun way for her to kind of really rouse her spirits again, because she's kind of had her little bit of an arc over the series as well so far in the season, and I really enjoyed that. So yeah, overall I thought it was great. Tilly did a fantastic job. We can talk about that if you guys want to, but she did a great job as the XO. I thought Saru handled the conflict very, very maturely, where he was like, you can't get involved, but we gotta not let her kill everybody on the planet. How are we gonna do this? I thought that was kind of a cool dilemma that he was kind of backed into there, and really thinking outside the box and how to resolve that issue. And yeah, I thought it was good. I liked the episode a lot. I did.
Awesome. Before we dive into some specific points, thank you to Tom Casey, who's at $2. As always, enjoy your discussions. Thank you, Tom. Remember, guys, you can super chat or become a YouTube member if you'd like to support the channel. It's not entirely needed, but any of it is always welcome, especially in these trying times around the world. It's always appreciated here on TC. Discussing specific things there, what you just noticed about Saru, totally agree with you there. Again, I've mentioned this through the last couple of episodes. I feel Saru is once again becoming a more confident character, but a more confident captain in a way. And I love the element today of him, I love the element today of him basically picking out the catchphrase. Like, every iconic captain has had their go-to catchphrase.
The catchphrase.
I loved how that was voted. He didn't instantly have one, but instead he's trying to pick one, but sort of failing at it in a way, but in a light-hearted way. It's not mocking his character or other characters. It's developing nicely. That bit before we go into engineering, he's like, hit it, and Tilly's like, no, it's just not working. No, let's not do that. And then it was like the execute one. That very much reminded me of Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock, where it was Captain Styles, who always appeared as a bit of a dick, to be honest, with his execute. That stick he used to carry around as well. What a knob. But yeah, we had that one.
Yeah,
it's like, Bridge, how can we have a yellow alert in space dock? Well, we have. Get up here, you lazy git. I love Saru choosing that. And whole bridge were like, what the hell is he on about? What the hell, man? Yeah. I love that bit. And again, like you say there, the Harry almost like bent Admiral Vance's order slightly, not getting involved, but conveniently finding a way around it. I felt it was very similar to what Janeway or Picard would have done. It's bending the rules to still get the job done at the end of the day. So, no one's getting massively in trouble. I like how that, came out there. Regarding Tilly as well, though, because I believe, Nick, this is a discussion you've just had on Twitter recently, and we were quite critical of this in the last episode when Tilly was promoted to First Officer and how she didn't appear as confident. And Damien, I'm going to be interested in your opinions on this in a minute. I feel like in this episode, not a different character, but it's like they rewrote it heavily in a way. So now she's suddenly this confident, like when Rin walked in, it's like, who's the captain? She's like, no, you will speak with authority or get out. It's like, suddenly this is a different person all of a sudden. But it doesn't feel like, a month's passed to where she's developed. It feels like only 2 hours have developed and now she's like totally different. It doesn't, to me, it didn't entirely make sense. Maybe it's because we don't watch the episodes that far apart. It just didn't seem like she's had room to suddenly switch personalities. Damien, what do you think on the whole Tilly thing? Because we've been pretty critical of this, but what do you think overall?
We were pretty critical of it as well on the Nerd Escape because we just didn't think it was the right choice for acting First Officer. Like we saw on lower decks in TNG, the admin side, where they're doing the crew reports. But oh my God, they've really hammed up the level of HR responsibilities for First Officer here. I'd hate to be a First Officer with what's happening here. But you're right. Like there was a bit of a leap from last week to this week. I don't know. It's still it's not gelling with me. I thought it was funny how she kind of slapped Rin down. But I was thinking in my mind, this is a guy that's just been freed from slavery and has been through, emotional and physical abuse. And, sorry, he doesn't know the protocols on a Starfleet ship. and she like served him up straight away. But like it's going to take a few episodes for me to kind of see that pan out. I would have liked to see Nielsen be the first officer there, but yeah, listen, it's early days. It's super early for Tilly. I liked the sequence in the hallway that you were talking about, where they were doing the agenda and the names and stuff like that. But coming up with the idea, I know you were talking about the resolution of the episode about like, oh, we'll have a crew renegade, and you know, it wasn't Starfleet. But did that work really? You know, Osiris left going, you know.
Yeah,
you're kind of, you're all douchebags, and this is going to come back and haunt you.
You know? Anyway, you know?
I know it was the Federation, by the way, even though it was Book's ship. But yeah, we'll see how that.
I mean, let's be honest there. Yeah. Like, if I was a villain, I don't think I'd be that thick. The ship clearly exited the hangar bay and didn't come from anywhere. It didn't warp in, didn't transwarp in. Where else could it have come from? It's more like,
yeah.
You know,
well, I think that kind of, I agree with what you're saying there. Like, obviously, it's still going to go. You know, I almost said a really bad phrase there. It's going to go bad. It's going to go south. We'll just say that.
No, I'm imagining what I was going to say, you know.
Yeah. But I think, like you said earlier, Jack, like it was Seru kind of bending the rule. And maybe we'll see that in the next episode where the Admiral's like, what the hell, man? I told you to play it cool. And he's like, I did play it cool. I didn't fire a single photon torpedo. What are you talking about? And he was like, yeah, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. Not touching. Can't get mad. Basically, kind of attitude about it, which I kind of think is kind of fun, you know? And I think it was a good way to meld the Admiral's desires to stay out of conflict, which we've talked a lot about his essentially his he's kind of gun shy with really getting back out there for good reason. You know, his life has been literally horrific. But it blended that desire to stay out of the conflict directly with just Seru and the Discovery's desire to get the Federation back into the fight. And I think you're right. Like, obviously, the end result was that, but I think it was just a fun way to bend the rules, and maybe we'll have like a bit of a cheeky conversation next episode about it. So I mean, the conflict is already there. Like, it's just going to come to a head, and I think we're going to have a potentially a battle with the Emerald Chain versus the Federation. You know, towards the end of the season.
It serves the story for the writers and stuff like that. I totally get that side of it as well. You know.
Yeah.
And just to interject there, because I know I mentioned Generations a while ago, but did anyone get the vibe in that sequence above the planet where the Viridian and the Discovery were facing off at the beginning, very much like Star Trek Nemesis, you know, where you have the two ships and they're like, they want to show our armament, and then the joystick popping up, I was getting very much like Riker going through the briar patch. I was like, oh, there's so many movie kind of images for me in there as well. It was good.
I totally get what you mean there. For me, it's very much like Nemesis when the Scimitar basically appears, you know, to face off against the Enterprise. It's like, oh, she's a predator, you know, and that whole sequence there is very like intimidating. The Viridian is a ship, looked kind of impressive, and you can see sections of it are a bit like the Discovery's nacelles. They're like not entirely attached, which on the Viridian looked really interesting, to be honest, because like this is a futuristic ship. For me, who's been a fan of a franchise called Halo, I'm very much getting Forerunner vibes from this type of technology with all the floaty magic bits, which are just like invisible taped together, you know, stuff like that. It's flex tape, no. But the ship did take a lot of damage from one small ship, which I was like, okay, I mean, I guess we can renew the ship. That probably did help. It's like if in other franchises, if you go up against like a Star Destroyer, the Imperial would know where, you know, to hit the ship, etc. Rin was previously on board the Viridian. He knew where the weak points were. That does make sense. But then again, to fall to a small ship, I don't know. Also, they were firing at the surface at the same time. It can be allowed, but it's like, hopefully in the future that ship isn't going to be like, you know, a piece of paper when it goes up against Discovery or another Federation starship. But again, it does come down to the power. Because of how the galaxy is at the minute, Viridian may be a very powerful ship compared to little transports with no warp drive, but to the Federation, who maybe could be more powerful still, but just aren't afraid to get their, you know, toes wet, essentially. That's going to be how it's painted. You know, Discovery could have easily bested the Viridian, maybe, but it's just not ready. They don't want to full-on conflict just yet because it will cost them more resources than they already have. I think there's a lot of questions to be answered there, and I don't think this is a Cyrus full power. I feel like she's a type of villain who will have something else up her sleeve, because she was very gun-ho to say, right, I'll bomb your planet then. So I reckon she's got something else like up her sleeve as well, where it's more ships and more forces. For sure. There's something definitely going up there.
I think that their strength is going to be in numbers, not necessarily in powerful ships. That's what I think.
I feel like this entire plot is a numbers game, because the Federation doesn't have numbers currently. That's its weak point. Right. Federation isn't so many worlds anymore.
And with the lack of dilithium being dropped into that episode, it really adds a much more like a caged animal vibe to the enemy now, where it's like they're desperate, which makes them dangerous now. You know, they're going to start, or they're going to have to start going further afield, and that's probably why they were. Remember the Captain's Roundtable, an episode or two back, where they're talking about, and it's like, okay, maybe there are more hotspots popping up now, so it's all weaving together nicely.
I think they're definitely constructing it there as well. I mean, Dom, you had something to say there. What do you think?
Oh, I was trying to say, especially with how the Emerald Chain don't have as many principles as the Federation have. You know, the Admiral talks about how they make Prime Directive violations an art form. So it could be. Actually. It was a good line. So we could see stuff like the Emerald Chain using whatever the weapon Cisco used to make planets uninhabitable, like the tri-cobalt torpedoes or whatever. It's things like that which will, even though they're not strong in like force, they're strong in how they apply that force and not having the principles to stop them from doing it. Which would be nice to see, because then it's like the principles of the Federation and why we should live up to the best of who we are against these
a war of ideologies in that regard.
And it's very similar to like other Star Trek series. The Federation in Discoveries wanted to keep its ideals and keep the core principles of the Federation. It reminds me very much of Star Trek Voyager, where even though Janeway was stranded in the Delta Quadrant, she aimed to keep the principles of the Federation. Sure, you have to bend the rules occasionally, and no one's saying you can't do that. I mean, I bet the Federation in 32nd century so far has probably bent the rules a few more times than they'd like to, but you do what you do to survive ultimately. But if you abandon your principles, you're no better than the people you're standing against. That's like always a core message of Star Trek as a whole. In any series, it's always been, you stick to what you believe in, don't abandon it for sake of, a quick win, essentially. We've seen that multiple times for every Star Trek iteration. But on that note, I think I really want to discuss a minute is we did get more information about the burn. Aside from the episode plot as a whole, there was further push, like you said, Nick, towards the burn here. I feel like we should discuss that, as Nick, me and you both have the same theory of what's going on. But Damian, what do you think? Obviously, the burn, more information. How did you take that?
I love a good mystery, and Star Trek does it so well. But like it's as Nick said, it's pushed it on enough that it's still teasing. And I liked the whole dialogue around it and the science jam getting mixed in there, like with I loved how they used Seru, kind of like how they used them for the Red Angel, because his heightened sense of visuals and auditory senses. But it's good, and oh my god, it's a song that we all knew about, but there's a Federation alert, stress call in there as well. So it's interesting. What I desperately wanted in here was like, let's ask Zora. Let's get Zora in on the comms here and see what she has to say. Maybe she can decode it. Maybe a little bit of Adira, but listen, Adira is awesome. But on with the mystery.
Theory-wise, now I came up with this theory while I stood in the kitchen cooking something, and I typed in our group chat, and Nick was like, well, I've already done this one. It's like, fuck you.
Beat you to it, sucker. Yeah.
The theory, a Federation distress call is coming from a nebula in the middle of nowhere that has somehow caused a burn or somehow related to it. Isn't it odd how the short trek Calypso have a discovery in a nebula emitting, well, it wasn't emitting a distress call, it was just sat there waiting for 1,000 years.
Yes.
At this point in time, because we've already had a Calypso reference in the Vidrash, and a few more references there now, is it too much to ask that these may be linking together and something else may be going on here? To go further, I've seen someone say that back in season 1, when Admiral Cornwell, may she rest in peace, has basically said, the Discovery is destroyed, I found the debris myself. Everyone presumed that was a mirror universe Discovery. There could be something weird going on here, and Trek's no way saying, maybe it went to the future, it's been actually waiting in there for 1,000 years, with the crew abandoning or something. I don't know, there's a lot of theories to go around, and Nick, you had more thoughts on this. Why don't you share this theory of how the Calypso links?
I mean, you pretty much nailed it. My theory is that somehow or another, it's going to be revealed that the ship inside of that giant nebula, that big gold cloud, is going to be the Discovery. Now, I also think that how logistically that's going to play out is unclear. There's a couple of theories of the Discovery being used to jump back into time. The Discovery right now has been used to go through time and through parallel universes. The mycelial network can kind of just do different things. I know that it used mycelial network to go through time, but there's no reason to assume that it can't. It can do things. Like, it's just a plot device that they can use for whatever they want. And so it could very well be the same Discovery that we see here. But there is, of course, the issue of the visual discrepancies, whereas now we're dealing with a refit discovery, and the one from the Calypso short trek was not a refit discovery. They could explain that through the programmable matter, and maybe they just make it look like the old one. Not a big deal there. Or they could really start to lean into stuff that they've already alluded to very heavily in this season. And from what we're seeing from Terra Firma in the Ready Room clip, they're again reiterating the construct of multiple parallel universes and parallel realities and running all in conjunction next to each other. This may not even be the same discovery. This may be just a discovery from a parallel reality that has jumped into this prime timeline and is stuck in there and has been hanging out there. It's unclear. It's not quite clear as to what's going on there. And I don't really know. Logistically, I know I don't have a good answer as to how it's the discovery yet, but I'm confident, because what else could it be, mystery, right? Really, like, what else? They already did the Enterprise, so they did that for season 2, so it's not going to be another Enterprise reveal.
I wouldn't put it past them, to be honest. But
I mean, yeah, it's true.
Oh my god, it's the Titan! No.
It's the Titan. Yeah, it's the Cerritos. God, I would love that.
The Cerritos.
I love that, and it's still animated. No,
Jesus Christ.
But you know, it's universe. Like, what else? If it's a Federation starship, they're decoding it. They didn't want to tell us what starship it was. It was this big thing. You had to wait to find out what ship it is and to figure out what the message is. I just feel like there's no other answer than it being the Discovery. I just feel like that's the most logical conclusion.
I completely agree with you there. After thinking about and then chatting with you about it, it's very coincidental at this point. Eclipse was in a nebula, and then the Discovery, or Mr. Stressful, is now coming from a nebula. It's got a Federation signal, which to me sounds like Voyager's Blue Alert signal. I don't know if anyone else picked it up. It sounded very much like Voyager's Blue Alert alarm when he'd land. But obviously, the Federation alarms are interchangeable at this point in time, so it could be the toilet alarm for all we know. Anyway, it's more or less like something's going on there. I don't know. I want it to be Discovery because that would link together, and that would link Calypso together very nicely. But also then we'd have to answer, well, now it's 2 Zoras. And where do we go from here on out? You know, how does that all link together? Because thinking about it, I think in the next 2 episodes, so let's quickly discuss this a minute. We'll be doing more theories on the upcoming episode quickly. But we've got episode 9 and 10, which are Terra Firma Part 1 and Part 2. Let's just say that's going to deal with the whole jojo thing. I doubt they're going to get around to the burn much unless it's at the very end of Part 10. I don't see them exploring much. It looks like now the problem might be, or quickly, let's fix jojo, or hey, and then we'll deal with the burn. So then that means we've got 3 episodes left. Is it 13 episodes this season or 14? I forgot.
13 episodes.
13.
So we've got 3 episodes. So we'll probably have episode 11 will be like, oh, that's the setup. And then I'm going to predict probably a 2-part season final again, potentially. I'm thinking that's maybe where it goes. But honestly, at the minute, we don't really know how it's going down. I feel like we're, much like other franchises we watch currently, which we were talking about before we started, we're at a point where there's no trailer content currently. We do not know where we're going now, which is good in one way. It makes the hard job a lot harder, but I still enjoy it because there's a lot more to theorize on and a lot more to discuss. Before I jump to you guys for your answers, thank you to 2 people who just donated. Good Tea Nice House, that's my favorite Wolf quote ever. Thank you for donating $10, saying, if I travel 950 years in the future, I'd like to learn about Captain Jack's my demise and find out what trouble Ketwolski got into. How come his crew isn't curious about what happened to Pike? I expect they've probably looked at Pike, but it's not relevant to the canon. I mean, we saw Spock get looked up by Burnham, and that was relevant to the story. I imagine Seru at some point in time probably looked back on Pike, or a few other crew members have, but it wasn't relevant to the story overall. I mean, we can discuss it in a minute. Amir's also got $10 and said, we'll go back to it next. If I time travel and create new dimensions, that would mean the original timeline never really changed, making you think of a new reality. Even fix any changes would again create. We're not going to go down that route because time travel.
Yeah, that was just
Amir. We're not getting into parallels. We're not getting into parallels. Forget parallels. Forget that episode exists. No.
Nick, what was you going to say about the Pike thing there? Because that was a great discussion to be had.
I was just going to say, like, they're not talking about that because they don't want to. As soon as they say something, boom, that's it. Now they have locked in whatever's going to happen to Pike. And let that show be that show. It doesn't need any more weight resting on its shoulders. We know, supposedly, what happens to him, which is he winds up in the chair and then he goes back to Talos. That's all we really need to know. They don't need to mention anything else about the rest of that crew because then it locks that writing team into just a corner that is just, even if it's a throwaway line, it's not necessary.
Right now, it doesn't need to be mentioned.
No.
Maybe in a season, maybe like if we're still doing Discovery season 5 or 6, which I believe we're doing 5, long story, then maybe they can discuss what Strange New World season 1's here. They can have a little throw into it, etc. Or something like that if need be. Right now, also, I feel it's not pivotal. I feel it's not pivotal to the story. Like, it's not their immediate concern. When you think about it, we looking at the crew haven't really had 5 minutes to sit down just yet, apart from Sue's meal, the crew, but they hadn't met up with Federation at that point, so they hadn't learned of the new history. They haven't had time to sit down and probably learn about things. Obviously, they only learned about Spock because it was relevant to the episode and their mission ahead. I expect if they had to pop over to Talos in the next 5 minutes, they might check on Pike, but it really depends. I don't think that's going down. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to talk about the Adira moment quickly, if you guys don't mind, because I feel that was a great moment in this episode. One, I think the internet's slightly blown out of proportion as per usual. However, I felt the moment between Adira and Stamets where she just I've just done it myself. I was about to say, don't do that, and I've gone and done it myself. Where they mentioned to Stamets, their chosen pronouns, was handled brilliantly. I didn't think it didn't need to be a big scene. It was just handled brilliantly. It's like leaning over and go, well, actually, this is how, they would like to be spoken about. Perfectly fine. Okay, cool. Let's get back to work. I thought it was handled fine. Gents, what do you think about that overall?
I would just say that, it was handled fine, but it was also a great example to show how much Adira now trusts Stamets and confides in him. Just being like, I haven't told anyone apart from Gray about this.
Right.
So it means a lot for their relationship that they confided in him. And it's just one of the really great character moments of this episode. And then just how the Discovery has a music room now. Weird, but
that's also definitely
where the hell did they get the piano from?
That's definitely a set for the gym. Yeah, for sure.
Would have been cool if we just had like a proto piano up here. Like that was just like piano
with no legs.
Oh, that would have been cool. And yeah, that was a really nice scene.
Just quickly before we continue on, I was thinking about this the other day. With protomatter, does this mean all cleaners in the 32nd century are redundant? Because things just clean itself away or dismantle itself? Just a quick... I had this theory the other day. Yeah. Oh, maybe there's dots around, isn't it? Yeah.
They got those little guys, those really tiny ones,
walking
which
trash
are super
bins,
adorable. Yeah. Yes, exactly. They look a little bit like they came out of the movie Wall-E, but we don't need to get into that.
Like, who's gonna clean up Linus's scales?
Shedding.
Like, someone's got to do it.
That's not programmable matter. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, Nick, your thoughts on the Adira moment?
I mean, I thought it was fine. It was a simple conversation, and it wasn't. Even though I understand that they're like CBS and Viacom are looking to do a proper representation of individuals who are currently living in 2020, it also fit nicely within the lore of the show, which is even it fits into the nicety of the show, like the lore of the show, by it kind of doubles up, right? It's Adira saying that is the way that they feel about their pronouns, but also it doubles up as a Trill kind of situation where it's multiple people as well. So it's kind of like it's kind of like doubling up. It's like doing like a Star Trek thing where it's kind of like playing a fun twist on the concept of someone living with multiple personalities and memories inside their minds and what that would feel like, but also expands on it just as a character, as Adira felt that way even prior to that. So I felt like it was doing a lot of different things all at the same time, and it was a very short minute conversation. It wasn't like a 45-minute discussion where it needed to be this big deal, and I thought it was perfectly done well. I have no problems with it. I think the only thing that I'm struggling with right now is that I keep using the wrong pronouns in my conversations for Adira, which I'm trying not to. It's hard. Yeah. It's really hard not to. I think everybody that isn't used to doing that.
I totally agree with you. I mean, you just saw I did it myself there. I think it's an innocent mistake to have, and it's understandable. I don't personally use those pronouns with anyone I currently know in real life. Like no one I talk to uses. So therefore, I slip up sometimes. I think it's normal human nature. As long as you're not being disrespectful about it and just casually making a mistake, not a big deal. If you're outright being disrespectful, you're a bit of a jerk. But I think it's to take time for everyone to understand. Yeah. And I think that's the point we are in society as well. So for Star Trek to currently represent this now on our screens is fantastic because it's helping us learn and understand it, which I appreciate personally because unfortunately I don't know anybody who is non-binary or transgender. So therefore I don't really know or understand much about that, if that makes sense. So to have Star Trek on screen showing these things to us, I think is brilliant, really.
Yeah.
Damian, did you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah. It ditto to what Ollie said, to be honest with you. It's it was a small moment when you look at the whole episode, but it was done well. And like what Nick was saying there, and Dom, you can see the value it added to every string. You know, the relaxing relationship between Stamets and Adira, the trill side of things, the power of representation. You know, I'm speaking from a perspective of generally seeing myself represented in many shows. So I can but imagine the power that it must give people, but also the education it's given me as well. Like what you were saying, I don't refer to anybody as they or them in my everyday life. So it's an education for me as well. But yeah, listen, it blended in with the story, and I can see how that moment must have been amazing for so many to watch. And I haven't gone down the social media side to see reactions to it, to be honest with you, but
you probably just don't.
I wouldn't.
don't.
I probably will avoid that. But
Just
you
don't
know,
bother with.
I mean,
yeah.
with every time
was
something
nice
like
to
this
see.
comes up in the world, whether it be LGBT issues, like when we're talking about gay or bisexual people, there's always one side of a pond which are going to hate it regardless. And again, we're just having a repeat of that issue or a repeat of that conversation, which is an ugly one when it comes to non-binary or transgender issues. At the end of the day, the trouble is, I mean, I'll say it as plain as it is. These people are going to be here, and they'll always be here. You being unhappy about it because it's in a TV show, get fucked. It's not going anywhere. And you can take me on record for saying that. I don't care. These people are in a TV show. They're going to be here. Your comment on the internet's not going to change it. So,
but
yeah.
I'll give you not to cut you off there
No, go for
prematurely, but just to kind of give you a real world impact to that episode. Every so often, I'll watch Star Trek with my daughter. Now, some of it is not appropriate, but other bits of it are. And that scene came up. And my daughter was she was asking me questions about that. So that opened up a whole discussion about pronouns and representation. And like that, what was it? As you said, a minute or so in the episode.
It was about like a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, like that was a whole conversation that I had with her. And she came out of it knowing a lot more. And like that, so did I. So that's a win for me.
The thing is, and the core of this whole thing is, you know, if you go back to the interracial kiss from the original series, and I know Gene has gone on record as saying we never got a single letter that was against that, which also many other people on the production have come out and said that that's not true, and that they did get a lot of hate mail for it, and that also certain stations in certain areas of the world and in the United States refused to air it, or were very hesitant to air it for their demographics and for their population there. And you look at that, and that being such a thing, like that was such a big deal, and now it's like, well, now it's nothing. Like it literally is common practice. It's every day. Whereas we're again repeating the cycle again. We have to repeat this thing over again with, you know, gay and lesbian relationships, transgenders, non-binaries. We have to do this again, where people are again freaking out over it. But in 50 years, it's going to be a situation where it's not going to be a big deal. And it's specific. I say that in relation to what you said, Damian, where it's like a younger generation that's being exposed to it is going to understand it from a different perspective. Whereas all of us have decades of our lives together where we're not used to dealing with this topic. So it's like this huge culture shock, but to younger folks coming up, it's going to be commonplace.
Yeah.
You know, which just like for all of us, it's an interracial relationship is just commonplace because it was normalized for when we were growing up. But 50 years ago, it wasn't like that. It was a huge culture shock to that generation that was watching it. So we're just repeating history over again.
Yeah.
And
because we're all like different ages here, I'm glad I've grown up in the age where, you know, sort of gay, lesbian relationships are normal. You know, I would hate to be back 20 years, and I don't mean to disrespect people older than me, etc., and sort of have those difficult discussions, those difficult times. I'm glad I've grown up in the age where it's acceptable, it's fine to do that, and you know, you don't like have aggro on the street, etc. Now we're also discovering the whole like non-binary and transgender discussion. It has to be had, and having a positive voice about it and getting engaged in the discussions and understanding them is the important factor. Is something which shows like Star Trek allow you to do, which is I think is fantastic. And Damien, your story about there of your daughter is fantastic. I think, you know, hopefully a lot more people are also, you know, taking a positive step like that with their children at something, or just anyone really. I will say though, with this episode, can we say now that Hugh Colbert and Paul Stamets are Discovery's dads, because that's what it seems like. Honestly, their scene there, I loved it.
I want to also point out the scene at the beginning of this episode, which was actually meant to be in last week's episode.
Oh yes.
They cut it and put it into this episode, but I think it really worked in this episode and really served many purposes. Not only with there's something wrong with Giorgio. We don't have to wait an episode to see what might be wrong with her. It's just in this episode and then next episode instead of 3 episodes. But then Colbert just makes like a small comment being like, if I lived long enough, I would have children. And then at the end of this episode, you see Colbert and Stamets basically acting as the parental role father figures for Adira. And I just found that so sweet and worked. And I'm glad that they cut that scene and put it in this episode.
It made more sense that this episode was, the B plot essentially was focusing on, I guess it's the B plot, was focusing on Jojo in a way, and how that sort of went down there. It made a lot more sense. If it was in last episode, I don't think it would have flowed properly. I feel like it bolstered this episode a bit better and rounded it off there. And I love that moment at the end, not roughly at the end, but when it was battling, when Jojo was hacking the computer conveniently, she knows everyone's password apparently, and then like Colbert appears out of nowhere with security behind her. It's like, that man knows where we are. So Danny should have donated $5 or €5 and says Blue and Ian won the Red Room, and they said they call Anthony and Wilson their dads on set. I believe they're all involved in like some sort of D&D game as well, aren't they? I believe Anthony Rapp's hosting that, and like Blue and Ian are all in it as well. I've seen it on Twitter a couple of times.
Anthony's on it. Blue and Ian.
I'm not sure if Wilson is.
But it's DM'd by Noah, who plays Rin.
Yeah,
and I think Mary Wiseman is also in it, who's Noah's wife.
Disco does D&D, yeah.
Yep.
Sean, thank you for donating £10. That's the thing with the original series, though, is that minority of characters didn't need a metaphorical, flashing neon sign to label their characteristic. I'm gay, flash, flash. Yes, I don't think Discovery does that. I think it just focuses more on it, or it's more, say, not in your face. I feel like that's the wrong way to use it. But because
it's more present.
It's more present, yeah, that's probably the best word to use it. And I think some people don't understand why that is sometimes. But it's like, it's just because of theirs.
Look at Riker, and sorry enough for interrupt, but remember Troy and Riker's relationship towards the latter part of TNG. Like that was so present in the episodes, even Worf and into the movies as well. Like, but the relationships are a large part of our lives. So like, why shouldn't it appear in a part of every episode?
I mean, I always say this, the way they introduced Colbert and Stamets' relationship was genuine. I remember the first scene they had together as a couple, I guess you could say, was in the season 1 episode. Is it Into the Forest? No, it was one of, I think it's Context for Kings, maybe?
Yeah, it was, I think it was Context for Kings, because it was when Stamets hurt his nose.
Yes, and we basically
and it was just in the medbay.
No, the first episode we actually had together, I mean, what I'm referring to, or first like major scene as a couple, was when they were brushing their teeth together.
Oh, the major scene as a couple, yeah.
Yeah, that was a major scene. That scene there worked really well, because there wasn't any, they weren't waving pride flags at the back of a room or something like that. It was just two people in a relationship together doing their teeth. A normal thing people do, but we do right now if we're with a partner, and we'll continue to do for 100 to 500 years' time, hopefully we're still standing. It's a normal thing. It wasn't a big deal out of it. It's not in your face or flashing it about. It's a normal thing. It's present, and I don't know how people can lose it over that. But to me, it's normal, and the way they act in this episode, completely normal as well. And that's what Star Trek's doing well. It's not shoving it in your face. It's not shoving it down your throat. It's presenting it in a normal scenario. If I had a boyfriend right now, we'd probably be doing the exact same things. We're not working in the engineering department on a starship, unfortunately. But hey, a man can dream, can't they?
One can dream. Yeah,
one can dream.
Right. That's
I'm
right.
gonna convert my kitchen into the warp core, hadn't I? The cooker is like that sometimes. What else was he going to say for this episode? I've forgotten that. I guess we should theorize on the upcoming episode 9 if everyone's keen for that.
I think let's talk a little bit about Giorgio and what's going on with her.
I completely forgot that.
Yeah. So obviously they've established this. So the only weird thing about the edit of this episode is that there was that sequence where Colbert finds her in the corridor and he's like, let's go have a conversation after she discovers the fact that her body's essentially dying. And they don't really end that, which is fine. This is the second time they've done that with Giorgio, because they did the same thing earlier when she had the conversation with Cronenberg, which we never had a resolution to. It just kind of ends and we don't find out really how that ends, but whatever. Yeah. So clearly, based off what we saw in this one and the Ready Room clip for next week, we're in a situation where the effects of time travel have negative impacts on people's bodies, whether it be molecularly or cellularly or whatever, and is causing her body to essentially fail. Now, people will bring up, of course, because I already addressed this in the Ready Room clip, which I'll just say here, which is Colbert says, well, the rest of the Discovery crew jumped through time. What's the big deal? Why is she freaking out? It's because from their research from the temporal Cold War and the temporal wars itself, they figured out either whether it's too much, too far of a distance, or even parallel universe jumping can cause these things to occur. So in Giorgio's position, she's not only changed realities, but now she's also jumped way ahead in time, which is causing her body to break down. And it looks like, that's going to be a big plot point. And I was struggling, and I'd be curious what you guys think. I was struggling to think of a situation where this has also occurred before, because I don't think it's occurred. We've seen a lot of time travel, but not people jumping universes and also time traveling. The only time I could think of it would be Spock going into the Kelvin universe and then traveling backwards in time, but I don't know if that's the same situation.
Not forget Braxton. Remember Braxton lost his mind from all the jumping from the 27th century. Remember
psychosis.
Temporal psychosis. So that was a psychological impact. And like from the earlier episodes in season 3, it was already set as well that the mirror universe, the distance between the two universes was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And maybe that proximity served the crossovers back in the 24th, 23rd century. But because that's gotten so far now, 1,000 years later, that's just untenable for Giorgio, and that's why she's having much more of an effect than the other crew. That's just where my mind is going. But it could go many other places as well.
There. So, like, if this is the mirror universe and the prime universe, and from Giorgio's perspective, now they're kind of going like this, where they're super far apart. But with Spock, he was on the prime timeline, and then he just jumped back in time, and then they were like right next to each other, and then it slowly started to go apart from that point. But obviously, it didn't take that. Like, he didn't, rest in peace, Leonard.
Kind of like a compound issue. There's the 1,000-year jump as well as the separation of the two universes as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but that's what I'm kind of thinking.
That's
well,
okay.
Yeah, it could be other situations like with Spock, he just went back in time, and him going back in time caused the other things to do out. So technically, he would have only jumped back in time. He didn't actually jump between dimensions.
Universe,
it created this universe.
But then
so
people
all his cells were dealing with was the time jump, and then they got accustomed to being in this new parallel universe. Whereas with Giorgio, she's jumped between two universes, and then she's jumped in the future. So her cells not only have to deal with the time travel, but also have to deal with the parallel universe jump. And that compound issue might be the thing which is causing this.
And then being so far apart.
Because we see in the Ready Room scene that the only other case this has happened is someone from the Kelvin timeline jumping to the prime timeline and then becoming a temporal soldier. So then he had the issue of jumping into a different parallel dimension universe and then time traveling. But we'll have to see what the episode holds.
And by that point, and that's true too, because by that point, the Kelvin universe and the prime universe would have already started to really veer away. Not as far as the mirror universe and the prime one, but it would have already started to branch away from each other.
Exactly.
And by the TNG era, it would have been slightly further apart. And then, him kind of going around, jumping back.
I think it said that he jumped from the Kelvin universe in 2379.
Yes.
So they would have been different.
Damn. I missed the Ready Room. I haven't seen it, so.
The Ready Room clip is good, man. The Ready Room clip blows a lid on the whole thing because
I gotta check it out.
Not only references the Kelvin universe, it explains what's kind of going on with Giorgio, and I'm surprised nobody's really because nobody gives a crap anymore. But it essentially puts the final nail in the coffin of any kind of discussions that the Discovery or current Star Trek is in the Kelvin time, like is in a different It's the prime timeline because this person arrived from the Kelvin timeline. So it puts the final nail on that coffin, which nobody's really talking about
Thank
anyways.
Christ, that discussion can finally
And
be
it's all in
put
this
to bed.
1 minute and a half clip. They just do it all right there. That's how it needs to be done,
though. That's a convenient way of doing it. You know, it's also the big fuck you to people who've been like saying, "Oh, it's in the Kelvin timeline, but Discovery timeline." No, it's never been stated. Such a 25% different, you know. Honestly.
Yeah, right.
Finally, we've got salvation to top 2020 off. What could possibly go wrong? Don't ask that question. But yeah, we also get more David Cronenberg in our upcoming scene as well, which is good. I love his character, and hopefully it's explained who exactly he is or what he's doing and why he's so different. Because obviously he's not a default Starfleet officer, as he's dressed in a nice suit with a convenient tie and his glasses. I wonder if Admiral Vance is going to be like, "What the hell have you done this time? You know, we told you not to go and mess with Terrans. You've done it again." Because in the upcoming trailer clip, we see him in Saru's ready room along with Kovic, who I think you can see stood just off screen. You can see his suit. In the ready, we've got a trailer breakdown coming up this Tuesday, and I suppose now we can discuss episode 9 a bit better. But in the 30-second trailer, you see Vance stood in the ready room with Saru and Michael, and he leans to Michael and goes, "Are you really ready to let go of her?" Referring to Jojo, likely. But you see Cronenberg sit off just at the end of the table. You see the black corner of his suit. I reckon there's be a discussion of like, "Well, you've done this, you bloody fix it," you know. And I still reckon he's done something to her. It's because he said to Colby, he said, "Oh, I suspected this would happen." I reckon he's messing around or he's up to something else. I really want to learn more about this. I don't know how you Damien, and you guys, but I love mysterious characters who have power and are up to something. Very much like the elusive man from Mass Effect. I love stuff like that. Really cool.
Yeah.
So
I just want
episode
more
9. Yes, more. Yeah. So episode 9 theories. This would be a good moment to circle into this, but there's a lot of theories and conversation going around what's going to happen in Terra Firma Part 1. I think it's going to be very Giorgio focused. Did you guys have any theories of what you think might happen? Damien, yourself?
No, I'm completely blind.
Going in blind.
I'm going in blind.
That's fair, dude.
That's the best way to be.
I'm going in blind, but like the way it is, like when you see the structure of season 3 so far, I think the build up now is that it will be the kind of the wrapping up of Giorgio, whether they send her back, return to sender, so she can do Section 31 back in the traditional era. But kind of going in blind other than that. So I'm looking forward to your theories.
I will say one interesting idea I had is if, say, they send Jojo back in time, and I think, is it TJ and Dom, you might have said this, imagine if she just lands on Pike's Bridge. She's like, "What the hell are you doing back here? We sent you off 5 minutes ago. What are you doing back?"
I still hate the orange.
Yeah, I hate the orange. Just walks off. No one mentions a thing. It'd be hilarious if something like that went down, you know. And that's how Strange New World starts. I don't know, tying it all together, which is something a lot of franchises are doing to me, of how they tie the series together through one character or a certain set of characters. Could be a great way to do that. You know, she lands in Strange New Worlds, then starts Section 31. I don't know. Something like that could really work well. Maybe she gets sent back in time. We don't know whether she makes it. Obviously, it's implied she makes it because there's a show upcoming. But, you know, something like that could work really well. But I did have this interesting theory, and I'll quickly mention it. The Section 31 show, we've heard nothing about it. Not really. There's no really major details about it, apart from who's writing it, who's starring in it, which is Michelle Yeoh, kind of a given, to be honest. Would it be surprised if they set the Section 31 series in the Mirror Universe? I don't know. The idea occurred to me. I don't think it would work, but the Section 31 shows it to be darker and more like gruff and like, you know, action-packed.
Shazad is in it, isn't he?
He is.
So
Yeah.
Shazad is in it, supposedly. I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna do that. I don't.
No,
think
it's just an idea. I
think. Yeah, I think
Section
we're gonna
13.
have maybe some. Yeah, exactly. It's the reverse. I think we're gonna have some mirror universe incursion missions in that show, because that seems like a perfect vehicle for that. But I don't think they're going to set the whole show there. I would actually argue that her going back in time, the person that's going to pick her up is Shazid. They already have the design for the Section 31 ship. Obviously, they have the digital design for it. So he's just on board one of those. And he picks her up and he's like, "We got to get to work," you know, and he gives her the badge back and they get back to work. That's what I think is going to happen. It's the backdoor pilot. Yeah, that's what I think.
Really good. I mean, they still have the set for the Section 31 ship. I believe Admiral Vance's office, that set for their base, is the reconverted set of a Section 31 bridge.
Well,
yes.
Yeah, but isn't the circular room?
Yeah, you know, we've got the captain's
with
like
the
con table, and then downstairs they've got like his magic.
The weird medical.
Yeah,
table.
It's also his like
bridge.
generating bridge as well. That was the bridge for Section 31. It's just been reconverted. So they still have that asset there, and it wouldn't surprise me after, you know, season 3's done, the Federation could move somewhere else. There's a lot of theories have that when that set may get reused back for Section 31 again or something like that. Or it might be something entirely. We don't know anything about Section 31 so far to
they've
even
already
theorize.
filmed it.
Ooh, yes.
before they change the set, because that would just be a lot of
No,
forth
it's not
stuff.
films. No.
No way. No way. There's so many leaks in that ship. We would have found something by now. I don't think so. No.
Before we
would've
move
heard
on, thank you to Danny Shields for $5 saying was Emily Colts and Detmo round up for you D&D. Yes, I do. I've not kept an eye on that, but yeah, thank you for your donation on that one. So theories in episode 9. Did any of you guys have any crazy, wacky theories you think may happen?
We had a video that came out, I think, only yesterday.
Yes, we did. Do you want to talk
about
about
this?
it?
I do want to. I wrote it, so I can talk about it.
There you go.
Okay, so they say in the next time or the Ready Room clip or whatever that there is no cure for what is happening to Giorgio in this universe or in this time. So the probable cure to stop it from happening is to send her back in time. So then only the effects of the jump is happening to her, so she won't die. But Admiral Vance has, I've got to keep saying that, has made it blatantly pointed out that all time travel tech has been destroyed according to the temporal accords. So it'd be kind of weird if they were like, oh, but we hang on to this one.
DeLorean at the back.
We keep this one at the back.
Because
I'd love that.
It seems like Vance is very much these are the rules, we stick to them kind of person. He's like, the Discovery being here violates an accord. I can't really have that, so I'm just trying to say you're a new ship with the A. So it would be cool if they somehow link, and this don't sound real crazy, the Guardian of Forever from the original series into the reason why Giorgio goes back. It said at the end of the TOS episode, the Guardian of Forever says, I am your conduit to do journeys and stuff, but then nothing really picks it up apart from the animated series. DS9 had an idea of using the Guardian of Forever, but didn't. So it's there, but no one's using anything for it. I suppose that Starfleet and the Federation could have put warning buoys around it and be like, don't come here, you'll mess up the timeline.
Go away.
But
Nothing to see here.
It would be nice if Giorgio and Burnham go to the Guardian Forever, and Giorgio's like, this is what I need to do. I need to go back in time. I need to stay alive. It would also be cool if the Guardian Forever recognized Burnham and was like, oh, you're Spock's sister. I remember when he was here.
Can we make the Guardian this time have some sort of sassy accent when they turn up? He's like, I ain't got no time for your stuff. You get the hell out of his time.
No, he needs to scream and his normal Kirk, he needs to yell it still. Yeah, I want to hear that voice. I don't want them to change it at all. I think you're because as of right now where we are, there is 4 methods of time travel that could potentially still be available. You have the Discovery with the mycelial network, which can do whatever the writers want it to do. You have the Guardian, which I think is probably the most likely answer now. And then you also have the Q's continuum that can do that, but we haven't heard from the Q in forever, so who knows what they're up to. And might be gone. And then, of course, you do have the more stylish just warping around a sun maneuver where they slingshot you back in time. So you've got a couple of different methods that are available. I think the most likely one would be potentially utilizing the Guardian or a Guardian-like
something like that
being. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be the Guardian of Forever. It could be another Guardian. It doesn't have to be the same one because we don't know too much in primary canon as to where the Guardian came from or who built it. So it's possible that they built different types of them.
You aren't wrong there. Me and Dom, we wrote the Star Trek Explained video coming this week, and I believe in one of the extended medias, which isn't canon, they do make a reference there is another Guardian outfit or something like it. There's another one, but they didn't go any further into that one. So it's possible.
There was
I think
a book
you can answer
series about that.
Yeah, there's probably more there. Maybe Jojo nicks book ship and goes around the sun or something like that. That'd be a convenient way to make books stay on Discovery, wouldn't it? That'd be interesting. I'm boring.
What if the vessel within the nebula has some temporal technology in it, and maybe
potentially,
something went awry on that,
But I personally think they're gonna. I feel like these next 2 episodes aren't going to touch more on the burn, which is a shame because we're all dying to know about the story. But again, it could do. You know, they could just drop Michael and Burnham off and go. Oh, sorry, Michael and Jojo off and go. Right, you go and solve your mystery. We'll go back onto the real case here. You know, see you later. Something like that could happen. I don't know. But we don't really have much to go on this episode because we're in such uncharted territory right now. They're keeping the next part of the story very under wraps. You know, what's the next course? Yes. Is solving the burn, and you know, somehow fixing Giorgio. I feel like the Guardian Forever could be a good thing there. But then again, we did see. I don't want to talk about this discussion ideally because it's from a different source, but there was an explosive argument on Twitter a while back, wasn't there, Nick, about Star Trek using something which hadn't been used in so long, if you remember that thing.
Yeah, there was an individual shitting his pants about...
Okay, what is that?
Yeah, just freaking the hell out about it and made a reference to the Guardian of Forever and tried to refer to it as Doctor Who in essence and stuff like that. And there was a couple of other things in there that, if they are true, which I don't know if they are, would be essentially plot spoilers by their implication.
Yeah, we're not going to mention it for the sake of that.
Yeah, so we're not going to get too much into that. But I think that there's a very strong reason why even the clip for next week literally showed us nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's because this episode has nothing in it. I think it's because they don't want us to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think there's a reason that there's another two-parter kind of just shoved into this episode.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I think there's a strong point to be made with this. There's something serious is going to happen. And I think there's a reason why we haven't seen any. We have nothing. We have zero clips.
We don't, yeah. I mean, you look at the trailer, the 30-second trailer. We've not seen anything new. The planet we've seen in it, which is some sort of ice planet, though you only get a couple of shots on it. In one of the shots, I can swear there's something behind Jojo, but it's really hard to break down. A lot of it's blurred shots, a lot of it's pan shots. You can't see anything. It looks very much like default sci-fi. Oh, look, it's an ice planet and two people are walking on it.
Yeah.
That shot, actually, I just realised, the shot of Michael and Jojo walking on an ice planet, very identical to the opening shot of season 1 of Discovery when Prime Jojo. We need to mention that to AJ about doing the trailer breakdown. Quickly before we do move on, someone just said, "What about Iconian portals?" I don't believe Iconian portals could travel in time. Then again, this is Star Trek, so they probably could do.
So
seen anything.
Yeah, so Iconian portals
can
travel in time.
Oh yeah, they could. Yeah, shit.
They can, but it's the Iconian gateways. But that technology was few and far between 900 years. During the TNG time period, so like 900 years with there, and then kind of moving, a few hundred years ahead of time. So you're talking about a solid 600 years where there's no Iconian technology being created. They could bust out an Iconian thing, but that is so.
Admiral Vance's garage. Look what I've got.
Yeah, that would be too. It would just be too much. It would just be convoluted
as well.
It'd be a good way to use Zora. Ask Zora. Is there any temporal tech? She's 100,000 years worth of.
I feel like you're just thinking she's Ask Jeeves at this point in time. It's like,
we
can't solve this week's mystery. Zor, what do you think?
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. I mean, she had that great movie recommendation. True, so what else has she got?
Yeah, come on.
Zor, recommend me a song. Faith of the Heart. I didn't realize. We've got 2 donations for me to quickly read. Danny, thank you for both these donations for $10 each. If I say we need a Boimler effect reference, that would be hilarious. Maybe in a downtime moment, someone raises a glass and says, "Let's Boimler." Also needing a Brian reference. Irish Trekkies Unite. How you doing, Damian? Is what we ask. How you doing, Damian?
Hey.
Survived the last hour.
I'm still here.
That's right.
And they also say in the next donation, what if we have to trust Jojo with a disco to take it back in time and trust her with guaranteeing its protection for 1,000 years in the nebula, hence Calypso, and why it's waiting for its crew? That's an interesting theory.
Well, I mean, that's a theory that we've had for a number of weeks, Danny. So I don't know if you're just trying to troll us right now. No, I'm kidding. That is the theory that a lot of. That's the theory that we've had for a while, which is that Giorgio used the Discovery to go back in time, and that's why all the shuttles were out of the bay. They all jumped into the shuttles, let her jump back, and then the Discovery was there. The only downside to that is... The only downside to that theory as of this point is based off of the trailer for the next episode. It doesn't look like that's what they're going to do.
No.
It looks like it's going to be something else that they allow her to go back in time. Right. But it could also be... They could still play it up because Seru, I think, had a line in the trailer, in the teaser, saying the needs of the many needs to outweigh the needs of the few or the one. And that could be a conversation about letting her take the Discovery. Like, do we really just let her take the Discovery and potentially screw all of us right now? even though we think it'll be okay sitting inside of a nebula. We don't know. I don't know. And, yeah.
If she takes the Discovery back in time, and then the ship in the nebula is the Discovery, their one in the first place with Zor waiting for the crew. Technically, it wouldn't alter the timeline, they're just picking it back up again. But in an event, that would mean the Discovery did technically cause the burn for letting out its distress signal. So Giorgio technically caused the burn. What a cow.
No, it could be just they knew that ship was going to be in that nebula where the burn source happened.
Ooh.
Because they see it. The ship didn't cause the burn. It's just the signal is at the same place. They parked it in a place they knew they would find it.
And maybe
God, I hate time travel.
The ship to record what's going on there to uncover who it was that was there at that moment.
No. Bang! Season 4's plot. We're going to go find them.
Yeah, I think we've got it.
And now the Discovery has cloaking technology.
Well done, gentlemen. We're off. I love what we do on this channel, honestly.
So good.
What a great time to be a Star Trek fan. We just wrote the plot to season 4 as well. God, if we're right, I feel like
if anyone from CBS is watching,
please don't snipe us.
Don't sue us, please. I'm going to email in the morning going, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah.
For part-time work.
When have you been watching these episodes?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Who's been sending them screeners? What's going on? Leaks!
Oh, imagine that would be all over Twitter. Trek Central ruined the next episodes for us.
Idiots.
That's what we're here to do.
That's what we're here to do. We're here to ruin Star Trek and make it look cool. Oh my god. CBS are definitely watching. Knowing our luck, probably they are. Chat, if you've got any final things to bring up right now, let's do. I think we've reached everything we discussed today. We've gone past an hour. It's probably a good time to round off, wouldn't you agree? Yeah. So Damian, before we do round off, what's your plans, going into 2020 with your channel? Have you got any exciting things coming up that you could tease us or share us with? Anything you want to tell us?
A lot more ships. And just for good measure, more ships on top of that. And more Trek talk, because we're in the second renaissance of Star Trek. Yes. So it's a good time to be a sci-fi lover. So onwards and upwards and always twirling, so roll on 2021.
Fantastic to hear. We must have you back on again sometime soon, maybe to discuss. I would love if we could get a good discussion sometimes for when Hero Collector launch our next line of starships, because I'm particularly excited for that. How do you feel about Star Trek Picard ships? Do you reckon we'd get them soon? Because I know it was teased at DST kind of, wasn't it, last year, but something would be coming with it.
Yeah, it's so hard to predict with 2020 the way that's it's run its course. It's an inevitability, but as to when, I'm not sure. I'd love a little Fenris Rangers ship and the La Serena.
I agree.
La Serena.
Be good.
Well,
more ships, please.
We've seen a preview of La Serena, haven't we? Yeah, I believe we've seen. Have we seen?
Yeah, we saw a preview of a bunch of those ships.
Mm-hmm.
Did they preview the Inquiry class as well? I feel like I've seen that one or not. I might be thinking of Star Trek Online.
I've only ever. I think I've only ever seen it in STO.
I must be something else.
Renders, which looks so good in those renders, and I see a few people modeling it on Instagram as well. There's some amazing modelers out there.
Perhaps we can collaborate on like an update video for some like Star Trek ships at some point, because I like following it and trying not to spend too much money on those ships because they're quite pricey and I'm running out of shelves. Hopefully, I'm going to adjust my setup soon, so a bit like Mr. Ketwolski's fantastic and fabulous setup over here. So I can have a few of my ships on display.
Nice.
Quite cool. Honestly, what Hero Collector's doing over there is fantastic, and I love seeing them at events. They've always got one of the best stalls, and hopefully next year we can be back doing events again. We can all catch up and celebrate Star Trek in person.
Yeah, fantastic.
All right, chat. Thank you very much for streaming tonight. Owen donates the last $5. Says, "I love you, Dom. Dom, your fan club grows bigger and bigger every week.
It grows by the day.
Me and Nick are gonna have to start looking for different jobs at this rate, honestly."
I know almost. Yeah.
It's all right, Nick. Trek only fans, here we come. Picard's will start filming in January. Yes, it is. We'll probably make a video covering Picard news and developments on the state of the Star Trek franchise in January. So I know many of you have questions about that. At the minute, there isn't too much filming news, simply because we are still in the height of a pandemic. It is winter. Things aren't going too well. Vaccines are being sold around the world. I would expect to see filming start now-ish, probably as we go into January. And I believe Evan Evergore, who plays Elnor, did hint that January is when Picard may start filming. But the rate everything's going, I do believe California's been shut down again. That may get delayed and may get pushed. We don't really have a concrete answer just yet. But it's a discussion to be had in the year, and I think one we'll all be excited for. All right, gents. Well, I think that's everything for today, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Well, Damian, it's been a pleasure having you here, as always. I hope we'll have you back on, and I hope you have a good end of the year and a happy holiday as well.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the
And of
great
course,
chat.
chat, thank you very much for tuning in. I've been joined by my fabulous co-hosts this evening, Dom and Nick. Gentlemen, a pleasure as always.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Some of us will be back next week to discuss episode 9, Terra Firma Part 1. Just a heads up, our live streams over the holiday season were a bit sporadic, depending on who hosts them. It'll probably be me for a few. Dom may get his own chance to host a stream. We may see about that one. But we'll be updating you with more news on that soon. It will be crazy. The post will probably fall down again. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for watching this.
Don't worry.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Well done. You've jinxed it now. As soon as you turn this camera off, all going down.
Zoop.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for watching the stream. I've been Captain Jack, your host here on Trek Central. We'll be back next week live at Sundays at 9 p.m. GMT to discuss more Star Trek Discovery. Don't forget to catch our trailer breakdown on Tuesday and, of course, our Star Trek Discovery episode review on Thursdays. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you very soon. Goodbye.